Why does nothing seem to kill the B-52 plane? Do you remember when the defense industry could actually build planes, not just build them, but also mass-produce them in large quantities? Of course you don't. Over time, military aircraft have become so complicated, and the defense industry has become so impenetrable to outside forces that you probably weren't even born when the US could truly build tough, reliable, and relatively low-cost planes. Look no further than the B-52, otherwise known as the Buff, big ugly fat fellow. Boeing built more than 700 of these planes between 1952 and 1962, and the Air Force expects to keep flying the Buff until the 2050s. That means that a bomber first built during the Truman administration will still be dropping warheads around the time the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan reach their midpoint. In comparison, the B-1 Lancer and B-2 Spirit, which first flew during the 1980s, are both expected to be retired in the mid-2030s, over a decade earlier than planned, according to Air Force magazine. NASA's Space Shuttle retired in 2011 after 30 years of service, and the SR-71 Blackbird bowed out in 1990 after flying for just 24 years. Meanwhile, the service plans to upgrade 76 B-52s and buy at least 100 new B-21 stealth bombers. The result during the 2040s would be a force of at least 175 bombers made up of factory-new B-21s and 80-year-old B-52s. Under any likely scenario, the B-52 remains straightforward, sturdy, and cheap to operate. The B-52s are the Air Force's long-range missile haulers. The military doesn't expect the old planes to penetrate enemy defenses during a high-tech war. Instead, they would launch cruise missiles from beyond the range of air defenses. To keep the old bombers viable, the Air Force is spending $32 billion to replace their TF-33 engines. And as part of the Combat Network Communications Technology upgrade, they're overhauling their bomb bays for smart weapon. The upgrade gives the B-52 a digital backbone, enabling air crews to receive digital tasking messages and real-time intelligence and threat data from various sources. The Air Force explained that all crew stations on the aircraft will be digitally connected, enabling information sharing while in flight, greatly enhancing situational awareness and mission flexibility. The goal in replacing the engines is to improve the B-52's fuel efficiency by at least 20%, while maintaining its ceiling and takeoff performance. A B-52H with TF-33 engines carries 35 tons of bombs and missiles over 4,500 miles without aerial refueling at a top speed of 650 miles per hour. Once upon a time, America built things to last. As the longest-serving combat aircraft in the U.S. military, the Buff proves that when it comes to fancy bells and whistles, less is more. I'm not an expert, but I'd have to say that the people who built this plane designed an aircraft that is durable, said Air Force Major General Thomas Bussière, who commands the 8th Air Force. Originally intended to be America's nuclear bomber, the B-52 took on a new mission with the advent of GPS-guided weapons, close air support. The Buff has come to the aid of troops in combat in Afghanistan and Iraq with a payload of 70,000 pounds of bombs and missiles. Although the B-52 has been updated over the years, the bomber's core technology dates back to the 1950s and 1960s, making it completely different from the Air Force's newest aircraft. Bussière said, "Basically, we're operating today with 1960s versions of aircraft that have been modified, like other weapon systems in any service. The fact that it has served so long, and will continue to serve for as long as it has, is truly an extraordinary statistic." One key to the B-52's longevity is that the planes pull fewer G-forces than fighters, which are designed to yank and bank, he said. Also, many of the planes spent years on alert with the Strategic Air Command, the predecessor to U.S. Strategic Command, so they weren't flying many missions. Did someone say, "Let's play global thermonuclear war"? Despite its age, the B-52 is expected to continue carrying out the nuclear mission alongside the Air Force's newest bomber, B-21 Raider. The Air Force ultimately plans to buy 100 B-21s, which are expected to begin flying during the 2020s. One reason the B-52 will outlast the newer B-2 is that the US government made a fateful decision to buy only 20 planes instead of the 132 B-2s it initially planned to acquire. Retired Air Force Lieutenant General David Deptula, Dean of the Mitchell Institute for Aerospace Studies, said, "For too long, the Air Force and the U.S. Department of Defense have let erratic budget levels drive force structure. It's time to turn that equation around and have the national security strategy drive force structure." Deptula told reporters on Wednesday, "With advancements in fighters and air defense systems, the B-52 can fire standoff conventional and nuclear weapons from a distance without putting itself at risk." Bussiere said the B-1 demonstrated how this can be done during the April 13th strike against Syria by launching cruise missiles at targets while remaining outside Syrian airspace. Opening a can of whoop-ass on ISIS, the B-52 has also proven invaluable to commanders in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan because it can carry a lot of fuel and a lot of weapons, allowing it to loiter for a long time and provide the firepower to get U.S. troops and their allies out of danger, said. During its 2017 rotation to the CENTCOM Theater of Operations, the 23rd Bomb Squadron flew 400 consecutive sorties against ISIS and Taliban targets before maintenance issues canceled the mission, breaking the B-52's previous record for consecutive mission sets during Operation Linebacker II in 1972, according to the U.S. Air Force Central Command. Not to be outdone, the 69th Expeditionary Bomb Squadron flew a total of 834 B-52 missions after arriving in theaters in September 2017. The unparalleled rotations are a testament to the robustness and durability of the B-52. The work Air Force Materiel Command has done over the years to maintain the plane, and the dedication of pilots to keep the B-52 flying. Bussiere said, "If you ever have any doubts about the motivation or discipline of a pilot, I offer you to go out on the flight line and look into the eyes of a maintainer launching a B-52. Bussiere said, "B-52 crews that rotated throughout the Middle East completely crushed their mission." B-52 bomber, affectionately known as the Buff, Big Ugly Fat Fellow, remains an enduring symbol of American military strength and engineering. Despite being introduced in the early 1950s, the B-52 has proven incredibly resilient. Its straightforward design, robust construction, and unmatched versatility, keeping it relevant for over 7 decades. Its ability to carry heavy payloads over long distances, combined with upgrades in modern technology and weaponry, ensures its continued viability on the battlefield. Unlike more modern aircraft that have been phased out or retired, the B-52's longevity can be attributed to its adaptability and the U.S. Air Force's commitment to maintaining and upgrading the fleet. The bomber's capacity to launch standoff weapons from beyond the reach of enemy defenses further cements its role in modern warfare. As a result, B-52 is expected to remain in service until the 2050s, outlasting many of its successors, and proving that, when it comes to military hardware, durability and reliability can outshine even the latest technological advancements. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment with your thoughts, and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more updates, and stay tuned for our next release.